So back in the season of The Chosen, I openly joked about doing an Omnioculus build. 100% had every intention of actually buckling down and getting it done. That was until I saw just how saturated the topic really was, and I was like, you know, on second thought, maybe that's not such a good idea. Frostbolt was at the tippy top of the search bar at that time, so I just kinda let him have it and went on my way. And then I decided to do this ridiculous April Fool's video about Foe Tracer and Dead Man's Tale that so many people took way too seriously. Anyway, that was then and this is now. Build Talks is officially back in session, and boy do I have a lot to say. Omnioculus is one of those exotics that's just so similar to something else, namely Graviton Forfeit, that at first it almost looks like Bungie got a little bit lazy with it. But that's entirely not the case, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. In this specific scenario, there are two different routes that one can take when building into Omnioculus, but I'm only going to be talking about one today because these take forever to put together. I'll just save that for later. That being said, we're going to start with the middle tree for 3 abilities. We've got Corrosive Smoke, Shattering Strike, and Flawless Execution. Corrosive Smoke is exactly that. It's a smoke bomb bound to your melee command. Throw it at a target's mouth and it'll deal damage over time, on top of slowing their general movement speed. Flawless Execution and Shattering Strike are one and the same. They are meant to work together. Flawless provides invisibility alongside of True Sight and a longer melee lunge for 10 seconds after a critical kill while crouched. Shattering Strike is the follow-up for that. Strike an enemy while Flawless Execution is active and you will weaken whatever target you just slapped. All of that plays rather well into Omnioculus as an exotic, so let's take a look at what exactly it does on a practical level. Omnioculus allows for a second melee charge and increases damage resistance while you're invisible. If you're with a fire team, making someone else invisible grants them damage resistance, and it returns a bit of melee energy to you. If you're playing solo, the first part of that is the only thing that matters because you can't give yourself melee energy anymore, at least not to my knowledge. The idea here is that every time Flawless Execution triggers, so does Omnioculus. That's why we're going with middle tree for this build specifically. As for exotic weapons, Rat King is the way to go here, even though it can't really be abused anymore like it once could. You can thank Bungie for that one, taking away everything that fits the description of fun. That's how sunsetting happened, but whatever. Anyway, the reason why this is the go-to gun is because of Vermin. Reloading after a kill provides brief invisibility. If we're playing into the invis here, we may as well just go hard or go home. Anytime Flawless Execution or Vermin triggers, so does Omnioculus, creating a circle of damage resistance invisibility, which is extremely handy in high-level instance encounters. Infestation, the Catalyst perk, also buffs aim assist and recoil direction by 20 points each, and it heals you every time Vermin triggers, so that's another great thing to have. Case in point, if you want to get the most out of this, you need the Catalyst. End of story. And yes, you guys can roast me for not having that Catalyst complete. I didn't even realize that I had it originally. If I'm being honest, I didn't even realize I had the gun. I swear I have no idea how I got it. I don't remember that at all. As for mods, we're gonna stay away from most of the artifact because not everyone has access to those mods yet. However, can confirm that I'll be revisiting this in the near future and reworking it with artifact mods. Starting with the helm, I've got Surprise Attack. General mods don't really matter all that much, I just don't like seeing empty slots on my armor. Surprise Attack is the key mod here that will allow for a literal, and I do mean this, virtually constant damage boost provided you stack your charges. Extremely handy, lots of fun to experiment with. On my gauntlets, I've got Powerful Friends, which offers a plus 22 mobility and a non-relevant primary effect, along with Momentum Transfer, which restores bits of melee energy upon dealing damage with a grenade. Momentum Transfer is handy for crowd control, but it also activates the mobility buff from Powerful Friends in this scenario specifically. Also want to make sure you swap Sidearm Loader for Unstoppable Sidearm. This video was filmed about 3 days before Season of the Splicer started, and I had no idea that this mod was going to be a thing. You always want to have at least one method of stunning or staggering if you have any intention of using this in core endgame activities. Omnioculus is just carrying taking charge for me. I never managed to work an exotic piece of armor, and you can't make me. Mostly because I rarely have the resources. That's mostly what it is, yes. For Greaves, I've got Stacks on Stacks, which doubles the charges gained when picking up an Orb of Power, and Absolution, which restores energy for all abilities every time you pick up said orb. For the Cloak, we've only got 2 things, a double stack of Bomber and Charged Up. I can already see the comments about Elemental Well mods. Yes, I am aware that they can do the exact same thing as these mods. I just tend to avoid them because I don't really care for them. However, if you absolutely have to have your Elemental Well mods, I do have something for you. Reaping Wellmaker, Supercharged, Elemental Charge, Stacks on Stacks, and Surprise Attack. These mods literally do the exact same thing as the first mod set that I showcased, but now you gotta do a dodge roll first. It's just as accessible and just as potent, but it relies on higher mobility tiers, so unless you're an Arc Strider, you're still gonna be waiting at least 14 seconds per well spawn. These are good mods, but Orbs of Power are always more common than wells. You just kinda blow things up and they spawn. Situationally, they're more reliable in that respect. That's why I don't use them. I just don't really care for them, but if it fits your style better, then by all means, you do you, boo. Whether you're using the well mods or you're using the combat mods, that does not really matter. The general function between the two remains exactly the same. Wells and orbs pool together as charges of light, and all mods utilize that. In high instance encounters, your invisibility is everything, and you trigger it from two different means. Either a critical kill while crouched, or reloading after a Rat King kill. The only difference is that one can be followed up with Shattering Strike and the other can't. Either way, the invisibility is there both as an escape route or as a weaken debuff. Regardless, the damage resistance is universal. Surprise Attack triggers each time you load a sidearm or you ready it. Wells or orbs, whichever you decided was more your thing, will both provide charges, and this will turn into a circular charge. You use charged magazine to kill things, which in turn generates orbs, which will fuel the next charged magazine. It's not complicated. Shattering Strike will make the next charged magazine that much more potent as well. It's definitely a strong combo for stacking damage on single big boy targets. Rat King, on the other hand, makes this far more forgiving because it means that you don't have to get a critical kill while crouched to trigger the invisibility. All you have to do is just reload after a kill. Like I said earlier, as long as you're invisible, Omnioculus will trigger and the damage resistance will activate. There is another way to do this with both the bottom and the top tree because of Shade Step and Vanish in Smoke, but that's a tale for another time. With Orbs of Power, each orb is going to generate 2 charges. If you're using Elemental Charge, each well will generate 4 charges. Both of those assume that you are using stacks on stacks. Like I said, they do the exact same thing, except that wells are more potent but aren't quite as passive or common, oftentimes requiring input from the player in one way or another just to spawn them. Lastly, Unstoppable Sidearm is there simply to stagger. A wise decision would be to bring Barrier Auto or Scout. You never know what you'll come up against. Shit is wild out there right now. But that is, in essence, this build in a nutshell. Invisibility bolsters player defense by an exceptional amount. Rat King allows for an extra and more easily accessible invisibility. Surprise Attack buffs Rat King, all of which are bolstered by Shattering Strike and Flawless Execution. Also, you have a second Smoke Bomb charge that doesn't really matter because Middle Tree Nightstalker. So there you have it. It's finally over. I can safely say that I am done with Omnioculus. For now. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to do this again with a different skill tree, along with another experimental build that I'm sure the entire community is already having a collective freak out over. So I'm just gonna go hang myself and then get to work on those. Bye.